let's move on. We've got one more leg to go. The Audubon Stakes here, and this to me is the best betting race, not just of this pick 5. The entire card at Churchill Downs. We've got 11 3-year-old males going a mile and eighth on the grass. So many different ways you can go. You've got Major General trying turf for the first time. You've got Grand Sonata showing up here. Play Action Pass at 20-1, maybe a horse that you're going to want to talk about. Where do you want to go first?
I mean, my top pick's the 2 Grand Sonata. This would be a horse that have won 5 straight times if it weren't for Dog, or 4 straight times if it weren't for Dog, who beat him 2 of those 4 times. I love the fact that we're getting second off the layoff here. I think that you could see a monster improvement from this horse. He just kind of hung in that Transylvania. It was a little bit disappointing for that perspective, because it really looked like he was going to go by every step of the way. I think second off the layoff, you're going to see a lot better effort here. I like the fact that we have Gaffleone back aboard. He is picking this horse over a couple others in this race, which he could have been on. And so it gives you a little more confidence in Grand Sonata on that front as well. But look, this horse did absolutely nothing wrong down at Gulfstream. Comes back, runs in a tough race at Keeneland, runs well. The extra distance should be a plus for this horse, stretching out from 1.16 miles to 1.1 miles. So I think it's all systems go for the 2 Grand Sonata. My other must-use horse was all the way to the outside, the 11-horse Major General. And this is for one simple reason. It's the unknown horse in the race, and you're going to get 8-1 on it. You kind of felt like they just tried to keep getting this horse on the Kentucky Derby trail, and he wasn't quite good enough. He is the fastest horse in the race, so if he wants the lead, he can go get it from that 11 post. And Pletcher has Grand Sonata in here and chose to put Major General in as well. To me, that shows that he actually believes this horse is going to be pretty good on the turf. Really not a ton of reason to run Major General in this spot if you have Grand Sonata, if you don't think Major General is going to fire in some way.
I couldn't use Major General just because I couldn't figure out a way that the horse really is going to win. But I went very deep in this leg, and this is a leg where really I think you can make a case for just about anybody. Like I said, I didn't go with him, but I agree with you on the top choice. Definitely going to be Grand Sonata. A big reason you talked about it, Mike. There's a lot of horses I like here, and he's leaving 2 of them to ride Grand Sonata. That race through back to Dania Beach. He had a lone speed stablemate who was trying to go gate to wire and had a really nice lead, and somehow Grand Sonata dug in and was able to get the job done. So I remember that race every time I see Grand Sonata show back up. Hasn't really had a bad race at all on the turf, aside from having some trip issues in the Central Park Stakes. Second up for me, did you use the 4-horse? Did you use Play Action Pass?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Play Action Pass comes from a race at Keeneland back in April where Mike Somich did this huge stable 'em up feature talking about a lot of different horses in that race that he liked. And this was one of the horses in this race. By the way, the winner of that race is 6-1 in the Grade 2 Pennine Ridge on Saturday, limited liability. So you can go check out Aaron's preview for that on our YouTube channel. But for this one, for Play Action Pass, that ride last out from Tyler Gaffleone, who I'm sadly not going to get on him this time, I thought was really heads up, because if you look at the fractions, they went 25 flat, 51 seconds, 115.5. They went slow on the Churchill Downs turf. Gaffleone read that right away and said, I'm going to put you up closer to the lead, and the horse had enough left to hold off everybody and to dig in for the win. This kind of feels to me a little bit like that, where Major General probably is going to go to the lead. Maybe Summer Anthem. Like I was looking at this, there's 2 horses with time form early pace ratings of at least 100, and one of them is trying turf for the first time. So you don't know if that's going to fully carry over. So my point is, there isn't a ton of speed here. I think this horse, if he sits a much closer trip like he did last time out, Landry's ridden this horse multiple times. He was aboard him when he won on turf for his maiden race. So I don't love that I'm losing Tyler Gaffleone, but I don't think that gaining Corey Landry in this spot is a step down here. So this is my second up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the 4 that race 2 back. We're already seeing winners out of it. We talked about it as being a key race, and it's going to continue to produce them. So I'm happy you posted that up as the stable up today, because that's one of those races where we talked about it specifically on the show. You'd want to find key races before they're key races, and that's kind of what we were able to find there. I think we're going to keep seeing winners out of that one. But I think the water's just a little deep here for Play Action Pass, and I'm not a big Landry fan. This is a tough spot for this horse to be able to make a big-time run. By far the toughest race I think he's going to be in. Well, maybe that's not fair. Maybe the Grade 2 Bourbon was a little tougher. But it's just a real tough spot for him to find himself here, because I think there's some other interesting horses. The 9-horse, James Jones, out of Chad Brown Barn. I mean, I'm not sure why Santana's up. Again, not a Santana fan on the turf, but this horse, I went back and watched the replay, exploded down the lane, going 1.1 miles at Churchill. And it's interesting, how often do you see like two races, both at a mile and an eighth, right? I mean, you usually see some type of build up for it. Clearly, this horse wants every bit of that distance. You saw that turn of foot in that Churchill Downs race where just, again, stormed home doing a 12 and for the final furlong in a mile and an eighth race at 3 is really impressive. This horse is really well bred. If we can take a step forward off that last one, James Jones is right there. And so I think he's awfully dangerous in this spot. And these are the type of races where you got to fear Chad Brown with just shipping one in and trying to take that paycheck. So I'm going to use the 9 as well. Did you use the 9?
This was my third up. Yeah. And atop of everything, the Dam and the Grand Dam both were winners in graded group stakes races at a mile and a half. So that's why this horse debuted and stays at a mile and eighth. On that point, Ricardo, by the way, entering today, 5 for 26 on the turf this meet. So
there you go, Ricardo.
25% jockey, or sorry, 20% jockey for Chad Brown right there.
I love it. And maybe he's better when he's not in New York, so I shouldn't completely, take a dump on him here. But he's definitely one of those guys at Saratoga. I'm not interested on the turf. For me, the other horse was Summer Anthem, the 8 horse. You mentioned that there's 200 time form horses, Major General on the outside. The 8 Summer Anthem is the other one. Look, that last race specifically was really nice at Keeneland, where he sat off of a lone leader and then was able to pounce and get the job done. You could see a really similar trip here where Major General goes. Summer Anthem is the actual speed that's sitting right behind Major General. Major General backs up and Summer Anthem gets first run and just gets loose top of the lane. I could see a very similar trip setting up here. We're transferring from the Brusette barn over to the Maker barn. For me, that's one of those that, it's not, I'm not going to knock either of them. I think they're both very good trainers, but Mike Maker long on the turf is generally something that's a positive. I love Temple City as a sire for these type of races, the mile and an eighth, mile and a quarter races on the grass. So for me, the 8 is kind of all systems go, and I think has a chance of taking a big time step forward as well. I like a lot of these horses that are second off the layoff here at 3-year-old, because I think that is their best chance to take a nice jump up into a stakes company like this.
So fun fact on the 8, and I use this horse as well. You just went to North. That's my 4th horse here. Summer Anthem. If you look at the sales, you see, April 2022 at Keeneland. Oh, they just bought this horse a couple months ago for $150,000. I went and looked at that because I was like, it's also interesting that April 29th this horse raced and then changed barns. The sale was April 29th, Mike. This horse went out, won that race at Keeneland. By the way, Rudy Brissett bought this horse at auction for $8,000 as a yearling. Rudy Brissett went, done. Here you go. We got my maiden win, and I got $150,000 in the bank. And Mike Maker, this isn't a claiming race where you have to put that in beforehand and hope that the horse is going to run well. Maker saw that and said, I want that horse. They put $150,000 on him that day and immediately put him here. Not a non-winners of one other than this race. So to me, that spoke volumes about this horse's chances. It makes me feel better about the fact that from that race, 5 other horses have run back and none of them have hit the board. So forget that fact. Maker's cut the horse. We're moving forward, looking for improvement. We're getting a good price, 8-1. If we're getting 4-1, I'd be a little more cautious, but 8-1, I'm fine with this, Mike.
Yeah, I think that's the other key is that, this is a race where because I'm using the 2, who is the favorite and the deserving favorite, not really trying to find a bunch of short prices outside of that. I want to see if we can get a little bit bigger number home, especially as you said, it's one of the better betting races. There are favorites that we like earlier. So there is a possibility this sequence goes pretty chalky. So I didn't want to go crazy here, but I definitely wanted to see if we could find some prices. And for me, the 8, the 9, and the 11 were the logical prices that could get home here.
I have 2 longer shots. I'll go through them real quick here. I am going to use, and I was going back and forth, the prices that they weren't shorter made me end up using them. They're coming from the same race. First, the 3 Tallahatchie Bridge at 10-1 for Saffie Joseph Jr. Broke his maiden at this distance, just like James Jones did. Got fourth place from that race. Broke the maiden next out, going 9.5 furlongs at Keeneland. Got a 77 buyer. So backed that up pretty well. 10th and 11th place from that last race also won their next starts. I believe they were both in for claiming tags, but they did win. And the fact that I'm using Speaking Scout in here as well means I like Tallahatchie Bridge, but with Speaking Scout 6-1 on Motion and Saez, I was a little surprised by that. They're 24% together with a positive ROI, especially when they're second off the layoff like this. And specifically this kind of situation, second off of a long layoff, Saez riding for Grand Motion at 11 sample size, 2 wins, 9 times in the money. Meaning Saez Motion second out is very live. Whether or not the horse wins, that horse has a really strong shot to hit the board. So if you're looking for a horse to maybe use underneath in trifecta, superfecta, exacta, Speaking Scout, if you don't like him to win, definitely put him in second and third on your tickets.
Yeah, I I couldn't get behind either of these horses. And one of the main reasons was just how bad that race was, just from a like overall timing perspective. I mean, they went 49-114, and Speaking Scout was 2 lengths off the lead, sitting in second. Right, so it's right behind a slow pace. They didn't come home all that fast. There was just a lot of things about that race that left me to be just a little more desired. You saw Tallahatchie Bridge was able to come from a little bit further back off the pace, but I mean, we're talking like 2 or 3 lengths back, and both of these horses were just kind of able to roll by. I think they really benefited from a wildly slow pace in that race, and that was one of the reasons that they were both able to kind of get it done. Either of them needs to take a step forward to be competitive with someone like the two blasted Speaking Scout last time they faced each other. I think it's 2 back for Speaking Scout. So for me, it's just like, I get why you'd use both these horses, but that last race just left too much for me to be desired to kind of expand the ticket price to put both of them on.
And if you want to go a little cheaper than what because my ticket is more expensive than Mike's, if you want to go cheaper, like I said, the 3 and the 10 were the last 2 I considered back and forth, and their price at a little better odds, I'm going to go ahead and use them. But if you're looking to go cheaper, you can leave them off. Neither of us used the 5 Kaido-Dan, Mike, but I did the math on this because I was fascinated by it. His last 3 starts, we had somebody claim him for $35,000, and then they lost him 3 starts later for $80,000. In that span, if you include the difference between the 80 and the 35, his connections made $195,000 from 3 starts off of that horse, including a stakes win. That's pretty damn awesome.
That's a pretty good claim. It almost makes you wonder. I mean, you're surprised he was even available in the N1X. I mean, it just to even get claimed for 80. But when you claim a horse for 35, you sell him for 80 3 races later, and you pick up $100,000+ in purses in between. It's a pretty good couple months.
Listen, between Rich Strike, an actual claiming horse, winning the Kentucky Derby this year, and then Kaido-Dan, what he's done. Listen, it's the year of the claiming game. Everybody, get involved with horse racing. Start claiming horses like mad. That's what we're saying here.